The personal development world is going to feel confronted by this interview. Louise Fernando is here to show us another perspective to what is often fed as personal development, self development that can often take people astray. Welcome, Louise.
Hello, hi Monique. Yeah, let's dive in around this because I have a lot to say about the personal development field and self-development and how things can be switched up in an instant.
Absolutely. So, you've said something that I found really fascinating and that most people in the personal development world would disagree with. You said people don't need more healing, they need to stop avoiding what's right in front of them. Tell me what you mean by that.
Okay, so for me, as a previous self-development and personal development junkie, I was engulfed in this world of let's get better, let's do better, let's change everything. So I spent a lot of time healing and a lot of time doing the work. But actually, doing the work was keeping me distracted from what I really needed to face, the conversations that I needed to have, the changes that I needed to make to my behavior. And therefore, it was this self-perpetual loop that I was caught in where I was doing all the healing, everything needed healing, but there was no action being taken.
Mm,
And yes, we do need to heal. I'm not saying that for everyone coming at me, but what I am saying is that we also need to take the action because if we stay too long in the healing process, then we're just uncovering the scar and the wound all the time. We're just picking at it. We're just going over it and over it. So therefore, we need to move forwards.
mm, very true. When did you realize that all the journaling, yoga, and personal development wasn't actually changing anything in your life?
Okay. So I decided 1 year in my personal development journey to journal for 12 whole months. And I would journal every single day. And what I realized, I would do like a quarterly check-in with myself and then a 6 month check-in. And I realized I was saying some of the same things. The same things were coming up and the same things hadn't moved forward. But I was journaling. I was doing the work. I was doing the meditation. I was doing the yoga. I was, I was laying all my fears and thoughts and visions down on paper every single day. But nothing was really moving forward. Think
Mm.
to myself, okay, I've been journaling for a whole year now. What actually has changed? Why am I still saying the same things that I've been saying 6 months ago, 9 months ago? Why is this still coming up? And it was because I was not facing or proceeding forwards with the difficult, challenging conversations that I really needed to have in my life with those around me.
Mm. Yeah, that's huge. And I love how the actual practice is what made you see it because there was not a lot moving over an extended period of time. So I know that there's a point where you stopped alcohol and chocolate, not through meditation or manifestation. You just decided, and it's like, I'm not doing this anymore. Tell me more about that moment.
Okay, so this moment was 5 years ago in December. I had, I wasn't a massive drinker, but I drank when I was stressed, and I also ate chocolate when I was stressed. So I realized that I was using this as a coping mechanism, as a numbing tool to
Mm.
numb down all sensations, all everything that was going on when I was under pressure. And on the 31st of December, I had been at a friend's party and come home with my bottle of Prosecco to go and pick up another one to go to the next, the next part of the party. And something just landed in me as I was pouring it. It said, my intuition said to me, what if you didn't drink alcohol for a year? Gasp. I was like, whoa, whoa, what? Like, I can't do that. My birthday's in 5 days. I have a summer holiday. We have so many trips this year. Like, this is insane. Why are you asking me to do this? I'm not doing this. But I couldn't let it go. And at midnight that night, I stopped drinking and I've never had a drink since. I didn't need to meditate. I didn't need to journal. I didn't need to affirm over and over that I was not going to drink alcohol or that I was not going to be this person. I just decided. I decided that that was who I was going to be for a whole year, and that would be my identity of someone that didn't drink alcohol for 1 year. 10 days after that decision, I made a decision to do the same with chocolate, and I've never, or sweets, I've never eaten a bar of chocolate or had any sweets in almost 5 years now.
Mm.
And these I seen were human addictions to distract me from what I was really truly avoiding. Because when we use these things as numbing tools and we suppress and we push things down, we're not really allowing ourselves to feel the sensation or see what's going on. And I had recognized that these were my biggest Achilles heels. These were my biggest defaults in my life, where every time I got stressed, I would, you know, gorge on chocolate. I would have a glass of Prosecco. I would have shots at the bar. I became a different person when I drank alcohol and when I ate sugary products like that because I was riding this wave of stress, adrenaline, cortisol, and then flatlining. And I
Mm.
needed to be sharp to grow the business. I needed to be sharp. I needed my channel to be sharp. Now, I'm not saying that you can't have a sharp channel and drink alcohol and eat chocolate. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is this was what I was being guided to do. And therefore, that's what I did because I don't ignore the nudges.
Mm.
But I didn't have to, and this is where this came for me. Like this, I now know why that message came through, and I now know why this happened because it made me realize I didn't have to do all the added stuff to make a decision. I just
Mm.
needed to decide. And then from that decision, I had to make every decision in alignment with that decision. Every act, every single move that I made had to come down to that decision. It was, are you going to drink alcohol or are you not? No. Okay, keep going. And as a woman who has a monthly cycle, I found the first couple of months really torture because I started to realize the stories that would play in our mind around, oh, it's cycle time. I can have more chocolate. I can have more sweets because I'm on my cycle. So all of these thoughts and these narratives were coming up for me around these times or when there was stress. Oh, you could just have a bar of chocolate. No one will know. And this is the voice that played in my head for the first year. No one will know. And I knew no one would know, but I would know.
Mm.
And I had to override that voice. And that voice still comes in now and again. But if you allow the voice to come in and you allow it to leave, it doesn't stay long.
Mm. So true. And I'm guessing this taught you so much about what is required for change.
Yeah, we have to want it though.
Mm.
And this is the key component. We have to want the change. Otherwise, we're going to go back and forward. We're going to skip the lane and go back and try all the things on. And, we have to make a decision. That's what I want. That's how I'm going to get there. That's what I'm doing. And nothing is getting in my way. Nothing. Not the
Mm.
family holiday, not the birthday, nothing. And this has taught me so much about the self-development world and personal development, and also about the decisions that we make and how we override those beliefs and those thoughts that come up in our mind. Because I found that the chocolate and the sweets were way harder than the alcohol. It's so much more accessible. Your kids have sweets. There's Halloween, there's Christmas, there's Easter, there's shops. Every shop that you walk into is designed to have you buy something at the front desk. You're being faced with your fears and all of your beliefs all in every time you walk into a shop, every time you're at a party, like everything. And you have to develop this really strong growth mindset of, I know my vision, I know where I'm going. So for me, it wasn't about the affirmations, it wasn't about the journaling. I could have journaled for years saying, I want to not drink alcohol, I want to not eat chocolate. I had to make that decision and I had to align with that every single day of my life, every hour.
Yes. Why do you think people overcomplicate transformation?
I think people overcomplicate things because they like to complicate things because it feels more productive. It feels more that we're doing more if we're doing more, you know? So, again, on this personal development journey, this whole, like all of these different tasks that we give ourselves, we go to the yoga, we do the matcha cleanse, we do the exercise, we do all these things, and there's nothing to say that these things are wrong. I'm not saying that. But if we're still making the same decisions at the same time that we're drinking the matcha and stepping off the yoga mat, then there's a bigger, deeper issue going on there. And that's complication.
Mm.
And often we want to fill our lives with this stuff because again, it's an avoidance. It's an avoidance from what would actually what would it actually look like if you didn't have all of that in the way and you actually just went gung ho for the thing that you wanted? Like without the distractions, without the avoidance, without the detours, without being taken off to shiny object syndrome or something else looks better over here. What about if we just did away with that?
Mm. Yes. And it's so true. Like you said, if you're getting off the yoga mat and you're in the same place doing the same behavior, same action, there's something more here. Mm.
We can lie on the yoga mat, we can have this space, we can do the meditation, we can have all these things, and they're incredible things to have, but that's what they are. They're nice things to have. They're nice
Yeah.
things to have unless we're having the challenging conversation that comes with the space from the yoga session, that comes from the strength when we work out. These things are great, but they're only a part of something bigger.
Mm.
And
Yes.
maybe for anyone listening or watching this, maybe it's not another journal that you need. Maybe you just need to go and have a difficult conversation. Maybe it's not another dance class that you need to go to. But maybe you just need to sit in the room with your husband or your business partner or someone that you know there's a challenging conversation that would break the realms of everything, that would change everything for you. Maybe that is what you need to do.
Mm. I love this. And speaking of challenging conversations or facing our fears, I know that the fear of being seen and
Mm,
public speaking and being seen and heard on social media, this was a big fear of yours. And you have said you didn't like your voice, how you looked, you were terrified of all eyes being on you. And yet you launched a podcast, you started showing up and speaking publicly anyway. What made you move forward with all of this despite the fears and the insecurities?
I decided.
Mm.
I decided that I was not going to give in to the little girl that wanted to keep me safe. And I needed to move forward. And the only way to move forward was to go through and deal with the big things. And that meant, and this, everyone's going to hate me for saying this, come at me. I did these things very dysregulated. I did these when my legs were buckling. I was shaking, my palms were sweating. When I felt the air in my chest that I wasn't going to breathe, that when I felt sick, when I felt like I was going to die, I still put myself forward in these spaces and did this over and over and over, despite the shaking, despite feeling that I was going to die in the chair.
Mm.
I did it. And that might sound sick to a lot of people, but I knew there was something bigger on the other side of this. I knew that my own system was trying to keep me safe, and I was not having that.
Mm-hmm. And what did visibility teach you about confidence?
That confidence is not something, it's action brings confidence.
Mhm.
Taking the action is what's going to bring the confidence. And we have this also wrong. We have this wrong. Oh, when I get more confident, I'm going to go and do this thing. And when I have more confidence, then I'll go and do that thing. No, we need to move. We need to move with the energy of movement and doing and just going for it. I had no evidence of any of these things. None of these things gave me any evidence in the beginning. I had to just go with what I was being asked to do, and I knew in that moment that was going to create the confidence. Confidence comes when you do things over and over. It comes from taking action, it comes from refining, it comes from retweaking, it comes from a feedback loop of how you can do things differently. And I've fell on my face so many times as I've done this. I've made so many mistakes in the podcast. I've said things that I probably shouldn't have. I've dealt with things in different ways. But each time I've done that, I've become more confident. I've seen a different way to do things. I've seen a different way that I could speak, articulate, that I could show up. That did not come from journaling that I was going to be someone that did public speaking or stood up in a room full of other business owners and spoke anyway. I needed to move, and that gave me the confidence.
There's just no replacement for doing the thing and doing it over and over and over. You're so right.
We have to gradually expose ourselves to these things over and over. And this is some of the work that I teach. But if we're not moving forward, we're not going to be met.
Mhm.
We have to move. And again, finding confidence or getting more confident is another distraction. It's a distraction from actually moving forwards because we can be all zen and we can do all the things, but if we're not taking the step forward, then how do you become more confident?
It's so true. It's a distraction, it's a delay, it's a condition. Once that happens, then I'll do this. And you know what happens if something else has to happen before you can do this. You've let yourself off the hook.
Mm,
Mhm.
yeah, we need to move.
Now, I know that taking action when it didn't necessarily seem like a good idea on paper is something that you've done many times. And I want to talk about when you walked away from work with only 600 pounds in your bank account and you committed to an unpaid university placement. Some people look at this and they're like, oh, this is irresponsible. Our parents shudder at this. But what did you know and what did you feel that others couldn't understand?
And by the way, I had kids to feed, and I was currently at that time separated from my husband. So I was taking a massive, massive risk or investment. I call it an investment now. I remember sitting in work on the Friday and thinking maybe I should phone HR because I don't have any money in my bank account to last me for this placement. I needed £4,000. I didn't have it. I thought maybe I should just phone HR and cancel that. And, I can just go back to my life and this can just be a dream and I'll forget that. And it's okay. That's okay to forget this. But something sat me in that chair and said, are you hell? You will get up and you will walk out of this office and you will move and you will be going to placement on Monday. You have to trust and have to believe. And I left work on that Friday afternoon. I walked out of work with tears streaming down my face, got in my car and thought, what the hell have I just done? What have I just done? I have no evidence that anything is going to work. No evidence. But what I did was have self-trust. I trusted myself like no one else. I trusted my own intuition. I trusted the words that came through. And as a result of trusting myself, I laugh about this now, and many people may think this, yep, this was absolutely irresponsible, especially when I had children to feed and a mortgage to pay and, all the external things that go on in our lives in the human form. Somehow the money came in from different sources. There was a pension that hadn't been cashed. My energy bills they were due me £1,000 back. And I ended up with £4,000 coming into me from sources that I had no control over. None. And I remember, being in placement and finishing that placement and thinking, how the hell did I do that? Like, what just happened? Again, this was about a decision. It was about making a decision and moving when you get the nudge. not trying to fathom it out, work it out, or try and dance around it, but just making a decision and moving when it speaks to you. Something far greater than I am, something far greater than we are, but trusting in that decision that the time to go is now. That is what got me through my university placement with that knowing and with that trust. And that brings up a lot for people because there is all the external fears, the external factors, things in the human life, but we have to trust.
Mhm. Yes, when it comes to money in particular, it's like I'll have faith and trust with other things. I'll listen to voices, except for when it tells me to do something that doesn't make any financial sense, because money creates a lot of fear for human beings. And yet you have learned over and over again that trusting your intuition, even when it makes no logical sense, is important. And there is something about the timing. It's about doing it now. It's not about delaying it and getting around
Mm.
to it later. There's such timing. And that's what I love about this story. Everything lined up with you because you moved in the timing that it was given to you.
It is. It is about the timing. And when we hear that voice, when we hear that nudge, we have to move on that. We can't let it wait. We can't let it lie because it's coming through. It's like an urgency. It's like a baby being born. You can't, it's coming and that's it. We have to go with it. And we have to trust. We have to trust. And again, I like to use almost like this birthing metaphor as a storyline for this because there is the contraction, there is what that may feel like and the unknown, but you have to move with your body, you have to move with yourself, and that is where the outcomes arise from there, not from the logic.
So true. Now, what naturally happens as you decide to live your life this way, to listen to your intuition, to be guided, to live unconventionally, I would say. Not all friendships make the cut. Not all friendships can go with us into new
Mm.
seasons as we grow. I know that at one point you walked away from a 20-year friendship. You've lost entire friend groups.
Yep.
And this is hard for us. It creates almost like shock for our systems. What made you realize that you just no longer fit with these relationships? It couldn't be anymore.
I think at the time I'd always known for a long time that things weren't right. And we have these niggles, but sometimes because when we've been in relationships for a long time, we can often choose to ignore the niggles, but the niggles always get louder and louder and louder the further away from the attention that we listen to. So it wasn't like one day I woke up and said, okay, I'm going to leave my 20-year friendship. The
Mhm.
niggles had been coming, but I just knew that my life and the way that it was going could not take that friendship with me. That friendship needed to stay behind, and I needed to move forward without that, without the whole friend groups. Like lots of friends that I had, like years and years of relationships cultivated. And I walked away. And at times I felt like, what am I doing? What have I done? This, having no one and nothing for a period of time. It would have been so easy to go back. It would have been so easy to go back into normality and comfort, but I chose not to. And I walked away from that friendship. And what then happened in my life, I could not have materialized before that. Like everything shifted in that moment. I met my husband not that long after that friendship ending. I started in a new career, a new house, a new car, a whole new life, a whole new trajectory opened up for me in that moment. And I often ask myself, what would have happened if I'd stayed? That could not have possibly opened up for me. Something needed to go in that moment, and that's what needed to go in that moment. And this is where we get distracted because we stay in relationships for too long
Hmm.
because they are comfortable, they're normal, they've always been there. And that's a really tough call to make. It's a really tough call because we have no idea what's on the other side of that. We're basically walking into the void, the unknown. But when you trust yourself, you know that there's going to be something different on the other side.
Hmm. Yes. Was there grief involved when you made this decision?
Absolutely. There was a lot of grief for who I had been,
Mhm.
who I was, the time spent, the investments in relationships that had materialized, the love, the happiness, the memories. There was lots of grief around that. And part of me asked myself over and over, why am I doing this? Like, why? But knowing. So part of me was asking why I was doing this, but the other part was saying, you need to keep going, you need to keep moving. And I had to trust myself which part I listened to in that moment. I had to work out whether that was fear, whether it was my intuition, which part was actually being louder and which was bringing me a message that I needed to not ignore. And that's really difficult because a lot of people get caught up in decision making. They get caught up in making the right decision. What is the right decision to make? It's a decision that you cannot stop thinking about. It's a decision that will not stop gnawing and nattering in your mind. That's a decision you need to take.
That's it. And yes, there can be so much, especially with long-term friendships like this. There's loyalty, there's history, there's these
Hmm.
things that tie us. And even when we feel like, okay, I think I'm beginning to outgrow this relationship, those things still come into play. So, do you have a way today of knowing when you have outgrown people?
Yeah, I
Tell
do.
me about that.
I do. And I think everyone knows this. Everyone has this knowing, but it's whether you choose to tap into it or not.
Hmm.
And I know when I start to feel contracted, restricted, when I feel like a little clipped bird in a cage,
Hmm.
when I feel like things feel heavy and it feels dense, I know that something needs to shift. And that in itself can be quite overpowering to even think about stepping away from situations and relationships, whether that be business, whether that be partnerships. There's a lot can sometimes be at stake that is attached to these relationships. This is not just about the relationship. It's about what is attached to the it might be the story, it might be your house, it might be investments and money, it might be, history. There's investments there. And it's about you trusting yourself to know that you're making the right decision.
Hmm. Yeah. And I love how you said so much opened up for you because that's the thing that we forget when we're letting go of things or people. There will be a void. You said there were times when you were alone, and yet life will fill that void. New things will come in because now there's room for it. Now, not only did you walk away from relationships, you also walked away from a profitable business, which I always say is the hardest thing probably to walk away from. When it's went belly up, it's one thing, but what was going on? Why was your body telling you that it was time to walk away? Tell us a little bit about what was happening.
Okay, so I had a very profitable business and I had lots of clients, money coming in. Like on the outside, it looked very successful, like Could have been really scalable. Could have been really good, really profitable. But there was this nagging feeling of there's more. There's more, but you can't do this in this partnership. Again, it was my intuition coming through. And at first I kind of again nudged it away, but it started to get really louder, really louder. When I was in this business partnership, I could feel my energy drain before any meetings. I felt myself, the clients I had were incredible. They were lovely, but the conversations I was having were not the conversations that I was wanting to have. I knew there was more. I knew there was bigger conversations. There was more juice. And so all of these little things were coming in as little distinctive signs for me to pay attention. Every time I went to post in the joint business group, it almost felt like I felt myself procrastinating. I felt like I don't want to do this. It feels so, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to show up. I just wanted to hide. I didn't want to do the damn thing. I procrastinated. I did anything to get out of, doing the thing. But I showed up. I did what I did. And eventually it caught me square on the head. I'm like, I cannot do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. That in itself was a really difficult conversation because I had to have conversations with clients.
Mm.
I had a thriving membership. Everything looked rosy and golden on the outside, like it looked incredible, but it didn't feel incredible inside.
Mm.
It just didn't feel like for me, it felt like, and now knowing the strands of visibility as well, I felt like I was hiding behind someone else for safety.
Bingo.
And all I heard was, you need to stop hiding behind this brand. You need to go out on your own. You'll make this work on your own. And all of that came in. And therefore, I then had to make that decision to walk away, which was not an easy conversation.
No, not at all. And in these moments, how would you say that you distinguish fear from truth? Because it's scary to walk away from something that looks good. It's scary to have conversations with multiple people about how your decision is going to impact them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, as you were navigating this, how did you figure out what's fear, what's truth, what's mine, all of these different things that start swirling?
That were twirling. So for me, again, and I think this has been quite a theme throughout this interview, is that I trust myself. I trust the guidance. I trust what comes through, and I move when I'm instructed to. And again, it's about I took the space. I took some space to think about, is this coming from a fear place? Because maybe this is a fear of success or the fact that this could blow up. And maybe there's a fear there. But it wasn't. And I knew because my body was telling me, my body was giving me headaches. It was giving me, and this is where this is connected to the alcohol and the chocolate, because I was increasing my alcohol use at the weekends and I was using chocolate to get through the days because it was also linked with this business decision. And, therefore I started to realize with myself that I was out of integrity with myself. I was out of alignment with myself. Could I grow a business, ironically, that was all about alignment? Because that's what my business was. It was all about being aligned in your life and in your business with your relationships. And I asked myself the question, am I in integrity with myself here? No. Are you in alignment with yourself here? No. Okay, so how can you move forward? How can you teach people about alignment, Louise, when you're not in alignment and you're not in integrity? Okay, I hear you loud and clear. And this is the conversation that I had with my membership members. I said to them, I want you to know why I'm walking away. I'm walking away because this is out of integrity and out of alignment, and this is not what I'm teaching. I'm teaching you to be aligned, and I hope that me walking away shows you that you can walk away from the biggest things ever. And my membership at the time, you know, when that business relationship was done, a lot of them come and worked with me one to one. They moved with me when I moved with the business. Again, doors opened up.
Mhm.
Things happened, things changed. But it's that discernment between your fear or your intuition. Intuition, a lot of people will say that your intuition is soft whisper. That's not how I hear mine. Mine is more like a sharp jolt. It's like, move now. And it's like, oh, it kind of takes me over. And people will talk about fear in that way as well, but there's a different way that that voice will speak to me. The fear is more from an urgent,
Mhm.
frazzled place where my intuition, although it's bold and direct, and it wants me to move with urgency, it's more of a knowing. There's something a sensation that happens in my body, whereas the fear brings me anxiety. There's the knot in the stomach. The, you know, the breathing is a lot more faster. Where when I'm tapped into my intuition, it's coming from a deep place down in my diaphragm, down in my root, down in my core, and it's a much more precise conversation that I have with my intuition.
That makes sense. I would agree in how you describe the two different voices. So true. For people who are watching who might be having a similar thing, like things look good on the outside, money's coming in, clients are coming in, everything's good, but they don't feel good. And they might be thinking, like, it'd be stupid not to just keep going, like maybe I should just be grateful and go, just keep going. What would you say to somebody who it looks successful, but it doesn't feel successful?
I would ask you why you're allowing yourself to feel that way. Because ask yourself, is it for the money? Is it for the success? Or is it because you know that there's more for you? And because it's a very tricky situation, it's a very difficult conversation that you have with yourself before you even have any conversation with your staff, your team members, like anyone else. It's a conversation that you need to have with yourself first. And the question I would ask you, I would ask any of my clients this, and I've asked these questions myself. Can I stay another 6 months in this situation feeling the way that I am today? Ask yourself that. And if you can't, then you've got work to do. There's work to be done there because the squeeze will get tighter. And if
Mhm.
you don't look at this now, it's going to ask you at another later stage when things are much more harder to pull
Yes.
back from.
So true. It's just going to be more complicated and more it gets more advanced. It doesn't get easier. Hmm?
The whispers, I feel like when we're thinking about or when we're tapping into our intuition, the whispers first. The whispers are soft and then they come and then they tell you and then, but later on, the big truck comes along and says, okay, are you paying attention here? Because this is the truck. And if you do not pay attention to the truck, then something bigger's coming. And we're going to wipe the floor with you.
Mhm.
We're going to wipe the floor with you. And you're not going to be ready. So you've actually got a get out clause now before the big thing comes.
Mhm.
So you ask yourself, can I leave now before the big thing comes?
Mhm.
Because the big thing will likely derail you faster than the option and the choice that you have to choose from where you are now.
Yes. Yes. And then we wonder why, we get the bored side of the face. Yeah. You also shut down your business academy. So this was a very scalable offer, and you knew it was time to move. What what helped you trust yourself to shut that down?
Okay, so I'd run the Business Academy for 3 years. Again, this was created when I was in a space, a void, and I created the Business Academy and it blew. And it had the potential to be really scalable. The people that were coming in were getting long-lasting results, like not even just in the months they were working with me. I still have people now messaging me to say that they still listen to the meditations, they still hear my voice in their head, and they're still getting results from that Business Academy. So this was something that was born through me and was my baby. And I was delivering a session one day in the academy and I heard the whisper, "You're not going to be running this next year."
Mm.
Excuse me? What? Pardon? Could you like not repeat that again? I'm not ready for this. And I questioned that. I questioned that whisper at the time and I was like, nope, that's not going to happen. And I almost wanted to rebel against the whisper. So I started trying to create more programs in the academy and change up the format and change the way that I was doing things. And I would get to my computer and I'd be like, I would go to record and I'd start coughing.
Mm.
Something would go on with the tech. The dog would start barking. My phone would start ringing. Something interjected at every point. And this happened over and over. And I was like, what the hell is going on? I just want to record. I just want to record a video. Can someone please give me space, please? But then I realized I was then starting to procrastinate around the videos and procrastinate around the launches. And I tried to launch again on the back of that whisper and could not bring anyone new in. I retained clients. I've retained clients for years and client retention is a big thing for me, but I couldn't bring anyone new in. And at that point, I asked myself, why? I remember, I remember lying on my hall floor crying, going, why is this not working? Why is this not working? And having the embarrassment for the current clients that were in there that were watching me launch, not bring anyone new in. I remember feeling deep shame around that and thinking, they're watching me launch this program. They're in this program already. And I'm not bringing anyone new in. There was so many lessons around that time. I actually closed the academy down after that. But it was one of the biggest, hardest decisions ever because I'd burst that whole program. I had brought this into existence from my own background, my experience, my everything. Everything was poured into this program. And poof, it was gone. Gone. And that was soul destroying at the time.
Mm.
And I actually, and this is where we start getting into the mix of things. And this is where things start getting tricky, right? Because I then put that down to, there's so many things that we can get caught up into in our minds. I put that down to not bringing anyone new in. Oh, it must be a capacity issue. I must work on my capacity to bring in more. So I did all the capacity work, as you do, distraction, avoidance. Opened my channel up to receiving more clients, more money. Nothing was bringing anyone in. This was not a capacity issue. This was at a soul level. And you cannot outdo your soul. You can outwit many things, but you will not outwit your soul blueprint.
It's so true. It's so true. And when it is not the thing you're supposed to be moving forward with, you will have no, you'll have no movement on it. I mean, it will just be like hitting a brick wall, hitting a brick wall, hitting a brick wall, zero, zero, zero. And it's like, why? Like you're doing all the right steps, but it's just like, nope, not going to allow anyone to move forward, not allow anyone to move towards you because this is not the plan anymore. This is not the plan.
I always say that when we are being asked to look at something deeper, there's two things that will play out: your health and your money. Because these are two of the biggest signs that will ask you to pay attention. They slow you down, they make you look, and they have you looking inwards. You have no option for either of these things but to pay attention. So, yeah,
So true. You mess with our money, mess with our health, we start paying attention, we get out of our, you know, one day rolling into the next and Groundhog Day and autopilot. Earlier in this interview, you had talked about how when you were moving past your comfort zone and visibility and speaking and podcast, you did it even when you physically were feeling the fear.
yeah.
You've got the heart's racing and the palms are sweating and you're feeling like, oh my goodness, this is making me feel nauseous. What would you say to the people who are like, you have to feel completely good about every next step and you have to be completely calm and you have to feel all like you have to feel perfect as you're moving into something maybe that you haven't done before? What would you say to that?
I would say that's absolutely BS because calm is just a sensation. It's just we're moving through a life. We're moving through change every second of our day. The only permanent thing in life is change. We're always growing, we're always evolving, there's always things moving. So, yes, we can bring a sense of calm into these moments, but there are times and will be times where you will feel out of your depth, and your body will want you to know that. It will want you to know that. It's how you channel this sensation. It's
Mm-hmm.
not about trying to get rid of the sensation or the feeling. It's about how do you work with it? How do you work with when your legs are trembling, when your heart is racing? It's not, oh, let me try and just get rid of this sensation, because then all we're doing is suppressing it again.
Mm-hmm.
It's about being able to move with the sensation and use it as an ally, a friend. Use it as your partner. Ah, okay, here we go again. I know exactly what's going on here. And the more we recognize that friend and the more we become familiar and friendly with it,
Hmm.
the less it wants to play up for us.
That makes sense. It makes sense. And I love how you said the body is giving you sensations really that's just telling you you haven't been down this path before or you haven't been down this path that many times.
Of course, it wants to keep you safe. It doesn't, that's its whole job, is to protect you, to keep you safe. And that's fantastic. But we don't want to be safe all the time. There are
Mm-hmm.
times that we will be called upon where it feels very unsafe to do what we're going to do. And it will feel very dysregulating. We will feel anxiety, we will feel stress, we will feel the shaking, all of these things. And that's exactly what your body's designed to. It's asking you in that moment to stop. And you have to ask yourself, am I going to stop right now or am I going to move through this?
Mm-hmm.
These are signs of growth. They're signs of expansion. They're signs of something better on the other side. It's not a sign for you just to stop and, oh yeah, let me just take myself to yoga just now. Let me lie down and meditate for 5 minutes. No, we need to move through this. And yes, breathing techniques, I swear by them. I swear by other tools that I use as well that will help assist you to move through this, but you cannot give up.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people will associate this with, oh, maybe it's not my time. Maybe I'm not meant to do this thing. Maybe my body's telling me that this is not the right thing for me to do. Or maybe your body's telling you that there's something bigger on the other side and the reward is on the other side when you move there. And of course, this is a nuanced conversation because sometimes our body can be warning us of danger in situations and environments that we go into where it's your soul and yourself are saying, no, this is a no. It's again discernment. It's about
Mhm.
discerning. It's listening to your intuition and listening to your fear and figuring out which one is guiding you.
Absolutely, because the ongoing constant need for safety can easily slip into stagnation, easily slip into just this justification of this must not be right for me because everything doesn't feel easy and perfect, and I'm feeling challenged in every way by it. And that's what I love about your message is you keep reminding us to trust ourselves,
Mhm.
to learn what the different voices feel like so that we can keep moving forward. Yeah. Louise, what would you say to the person who is having these aha moments right now and who might be going, oh my goodness, I might have given into fear and safety and comfort versus what is really my growth edge? What would you say to that person?
I would ask yourself, what do you really, really want and what excites you the most? And again, it is about coming into the body. It is about asking yourself and sitting with the sensation rather than trying to push something down or suppress or avoid or distract. Like, what is your body and yourself trying to, and your intuition trying to give you wisdom about? Especially when there's growth there. It could be so easy to distract in that moment or pick up the phone or, scroll on social media or go and do something different. But I would ask you before you did that, what do you need now? What do you need to feel for yourself now? What do you need to ask yourself now? Because you're always going to be guided. You are the best person to guide yourself through this. Yes, you can have people that will help you with your blind spots and they will be able to see all these things, but you know ultimately what you really, really want. Sometimes there's just a fear around how big it could actually get.
Mm, yes.
And the
And
success that it creates, and the people that you may have to leave behind, and the conversations that you're going to have, and the challenges, and all of these things. That is what you're afraid of. It's not actually going and doing the thing, it's all the things around you that you're distracting yourself with.
mm, so true. And I know that you're a person who is so good at spotting blind spots of going, oh, this is why you keep spinning around this. This is why you're dancing around this, tiptoeing around the tulips. This is why you're staying on the fringes of this. I so appreciate you sharing your story today. And I know that you have insights and tools and you have practice, lots and lots of years practicing this. What's the one next step that someone can take listening to this and going, yeah, this is me, this is me, this is me? What would you like to invite them into?
I would invite you in to do the leadership advantage because when you lead, when you're able to lead yourself through these situations and circumstances, this is at your advantage. You will be able to make cleaner decisions. You'll be able to see what's ahead of you, but you'll also know deep within yourself whether things are right or where things need to go in that direction. So, yep, the leadership advantage uncovers all of this. It's a one-to-one session where we unpack and unpick the thing that you could be dancing around because people spend a lot of time dancing and avoiding and distracting and detouring. And I'm not here for that. I'm not here for that. I'm going to show you exactly what's distracting you and what way you need to move forwards.
Beautiful. We have included the link to book in for this in the description. Louise, thank you so much for sharing your story, for making your life a living testimony of what it looks like to act, to listen, to move, and to trust that everything is needed, that everything that you could possibly need next will move forward, will open up. I want to leave everyone with something that you said in the beginning. Your next level of life is probably hidden behind a difficult conversation you've been avoiding, sometimes with yourself and sometimes with others. Until next time, here's to moving forward and finding our confidence and our provision next. Thank you so much, Louise, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you.